Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from the last group. We want to present about our material is about language change and development. Before that, I want to introduce to you about our members. The first one is about our members here. The first one is Neela, Chelsy, Roniyatul Imtiyaz, Zahra, it's me, and Yusron Ramdhani, and Novaldi Andreyanzah. The first material is about language change. Language change is studied by both historical linguistics and sociolinguistics. It is divided into two different types. The first one is diachronic change. It is historical linguistic, the change of language over time. For example, Old English, Middle English, Modern English. The second one is synchronic change. A synchronic change in linguistics, the origins or the causes of language change, how language change with society or in particular period. For example, Pujandi in Pakistan and Pujandi in India. According to Jean Atkinson, language change occurs in three ways. The first one is progress, second one is decay, the last one is neither. Could be both consecutive and inconsecutive. For example, loss of rhotic, the R is unconsecutive. Could be natural or social. For example, the B sound lost in the thumb, or it means natural. The second material is
Yes, there are three types of language change, that is incremental change, decremental change, and replacement change. Next, Zara. Incremental change, that is the creation of new vocabulary used to design some physical invention, new social motivation, or new items of knowledge. For the example, selfie, emoji, gadget, and etc. And number two is decremental change, words that are not used anymore. Science object is not longer used. For the example, cassette, floppy disks, and etc. And the last is replacement change, is the replacement of word of structure, but both ways actually coexist in the language used. For the example, books, school to madrasa, and eat at eaten, and etc.
Cause of language change: first, social status; second, interaction or contact; third, dialect change; gender, laziness, imperfect learning; and the last is culture or tradition. Next, Zahra. First is social status. People of higher status introduce change later considered prestigious. Native, burger, bunkaba; price, chips; pronunciation of career, baba or papa, abu. Second is interaction or contact. Borrowing, isolation, slow process of change. Interaction increases influences on other language. For example, Isushi, Japan. Native, guluban, Parsi, necklace; bandargah, Parsi, seaport; Manyun, Hindi. And the third is dialectal change, difference in vocabulary or pronunciation due to difference in dialect. For example, autumn, fall; lift, elevator. Native, Saljam, Tipar Hazara; Gonglo, Lahore; Bahar, Basan, Lahore; Pio, Lahore; Lala, Hazara. Next.
Okay, the fourth cause of language change is laziness. Laziness occurs mainly because of laziness that the speaker shortening or combining the language and become widely accepted standard. For the example, I am become I'm, want to become wanna, because become cause, and etc. And the fifth is gender. The differences in the speeches between men and women. Women usually tend to introduce change associated with both prestigious and vernacular forms, but men usually introduce change associated with vernacular form. Native examples: Chacha, it means uncle. Auntie, it means auntie, and etc. And women pick more accurate term, but men simplistic. Like the example in this picture, we can see the difference. That a woman will say that the dress she is wearing is sea green color, but a man will say that her dress is blue color. Next will be referred by Zahra.
The next one is imperfect learning. Children routinely make mistakes when learning their native language, and the degree of which their mistakes are rooted out by parents and other adults, the elder children. In the part determined lineages of linguistic change, the native example is Mahendi become Mihandi. And the last one is culture and tradition. Culture influences the language that is spoken within its constraints as a society, such as how certain words are used in the support of the culture. Example, new places, situation, and the objects. The native example for culture and tradition is Lesi, Laka, and the last one is Charka.
Okay, level of language change occur on the following level. Number one, phonological. Number two, syntactic. Three, semantic. And the last, lexical. Next, phonological and complex. Not sudden happen over time. For example, some vowel rule when pin in some English dialect and not necessary is short at the end of Spanish word. Comes atas or etah. Native, sajan, and sajan. And min hadi, min handy. Gujarwalan, Gujranwala. Kirachi, Kirachi. Lexical change. Change in the word and vocabulary is addition of subsets or specifics to make new word breakable, thinkable, touchable, and etc. Addition of s and es, drinks, and box. Native, sub, subah, sabza, sabzazar, and dewankana, beta, drawing room. Next.
Okay, so next is syntactic change and the semantic change. Okay, for the syntactic change refers to change in the syntactic structure of a linguistic system. So basically, syntactic change is only occurs to the linguistic system of the structure of linguistic system. For like for general, a word order of English sentence is usually subject, verb, and then the object. But in poetry, however, the order may be shifted to achieve certain artistic effects, such as producing rhythm or melody in the lines. And then, for example, P.G. Kavanagh, in his poem Beyond Decoration, does not rely on merely stating a project I cannot go out. Rather, he shifts the syntax and says, go out I cannot, which lays a much stronger emphasis on the ability in ability to go out conveyed by the word cannot. Okay, for the semantic change. So basically, semantic change is a form of language change regarding the evolution of the word usage, usually to the point that the modern meaning is radically different from the original usage. So is different from the syntactic. Syntactic is only the structure that changes, but in semantic change is the word meaning that change. For example, like oh wait no I'm gonna mention the types of the semantic change first. Like there's broadening and narrowing. So the broadening is a type of semantic change which the meaning of a word becomes broader or more inclusive than its earlier meaning. So it's more like general or more you can use it on a wider context. For example, the word business was originally used only to mean someone was busy. However, over the years, the meaning of this word has changed. Now, the word's meaning has been broadened to refer to any types of work or job. Then the narrowing, semantic narrowing is a type of semantic change by which the meaning word becomes less general or inclusive than its earlier meaning. So yeah, it is the opposite of broadening. Like the broadening is more general and more usable in wider context, but in narrowing it becomes more like more specific. Yes, more specific. For the example of narrowing is meat. In Old English, meat refer to any and all item of food, but it could also mean something sweet, any sweet that exists at the time. But at the time passed, meat gradually began to refer only to animal flesh. Yeah, like before in the old days, is I mean when you try to mention food, you can say meat, but nowadays meat is only used for like animal flesh. I mean, like for example, chicken meat, like that. So there's a conclusion from this presentation. The conclusion is language do change, but also need to follow some certain process. So next. So I think that's all from us. Thank you for your attention. And I think don't forget to like and subscribe.
And also, if you guys have a question regarding about this material, you may type your question in the commenter column. I think it is all from our group. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.